So this has been a bit of a meme of Sargeras did nothing wrong. As you know, the guy destroyed like half of the known universe, if not more than a half. However, recently the Titan lore was changed drastically, like literally from the core, from the ground up, where they are a lot more morally gray than they used to be. We now know that the Titans have been officially deleting parts of the universe history, and yeah, pretty much everything we know about Sargeras is through the Titan perspective, so why would that part of the history be any different? Could the Titans have been lying about this as well the entire time? So how do all these changes affect Sargeras? Is this a hint he could return, and will the lore change entirely? So before we get into this video, I'd like to show you guys something super cool, and that is the sponsor of this video, the Ridge Wallet. Now, they've sent it to me years ago, and it's literally the only wallet I've used. I'm not gonna bore you guys too much. It is just sleek, elegant. You can fit up to 12 cards here. You can put cash on the side, and there is really not that much to it. Recently, they also released key cases, so you can check that out as well. Now, make sure to use my link in the description and the code DORON, and you can get 10% off. For the start, keep in mind that what Blizzard did with the lore recently by saying the Chronicle stuff and most of the Titan lore could just be complete lies, BS, just useless, they essentially uprooted everything we had known thus far, meaning everything is now subject to change. Of course, this doesn't mean that Sargeras was made up, he doesn't exist, or that he was a good guy, or that, you know, he wasn't just a fiery Titan-sized devil that plunged a massive sword into Azeroth that we saw with our own eyes. However, the entire origin story of how he was corrupted, what was his mission, and what was really going on could be a complete and utter lie. Like seriously, all of it could have been drastically edited, made up, and Blizzard may just be reshaping this entire storyline. Remember, it wasn't Sargeras that told us as to why he was doing what he was doing, it was the Titans. The reason I'm saying this is because of this quite recently discovered Titan books, in particular an edict that was at the time written by the main Titan Keeper guy, the Prime Designate Odin. If you want to learn more about it, I have multiple videos that I've previously released, but essentially, to put it simply, he gave a few orders. First is to completely purge the historical records of any advancements of the Black Empire and to paint these guys as just sheer chaos, dark age, hell that no mortal mind could imagine. This obviously means that these guys are literally just changing history from the ground up. Second, Odin ordered to attribute all accomplishments and works of wonder to the Titans alone and to paint the Titans as the source of all known creation. The last point ties in with this one, where he tells us to completely omit any information about the first ones and that we must not know that they are the actual progenitors. He pretty much ends this with an obvious dogma where he admits the first ones made the materials, but the Titans ordered it, and according to Odin, nothing can truly exist unless it is ordered, which is unsurprisingly a perspective of a Titan Keeper. Now, I know what you may be thinking, Odin is only a Titan Keeper, he was not a Titan, this is not the Titans saying this stuff, but that is really not that solid of an argument, as the Titan Keepers, as we know, were literally made as actual embodiments of the Titans themselves because they were far too big and powerful to get into Azeroth. So these guys are pretty much the avatars of the Titans, and it is almost certain that this is their perspective. There is, of course, some free will, as not all Titan Keepers agreed completely, which is why Odin pretty much tells them in this edict, stop arguing with me or else. However, overall Odin is really only doing the mission that the Titans gave them, and I'd say that he may just be the most loyal out of all of them, which is why he seems so fanatical, as this guy seems to be sticking to the Titan mission like literally to the letter. So let us turn this entire storyline back to Sargeras, as almost everything we know about him comes from Titan sources, and yeah, remember, this guy destroyed the Pantheon, so he obviously wouldn't be seen favorably in any way. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, there are actual other sources from various planets and even void sources where it is clearly stated that this guy wiped out entire civilizations. We even saw the Legion with our own eyes on how they corrupted and turned a world soul into a vessel to multiply themselves for all eternity, and yeah, these guys are definitely not good, at least to our standards. However, where there is quite a bit of wiggle room, that is in regards to his actual origin story and why he started the Burning Crusade in the first place, and this lore could now be completely different than what we had known thus far. But remember, the official story is that he was a champion of the Titan Pantheon, the strongest of the Titans, and the Titans are like these godlike beings that go around and order planets and turn them into perfection, which Now, obviously, doesn't seem to be the case. Well, he started learning about the Void and how these guys are much like themselves, but they go around and disorder planets, and then apparently the Dreadlords, as the Agents of Death, further played on his feelings and made this seem like an obstacle that could not be bypassed in any way. So Sargeras realized that the universe itself is just cursed from existence, and that it must be completely destroyed in a burning crusade hellfire, where once again everything is wiped out so that it could be created anew. Now, keep in mind, most of this is from a Titan perspective that we know of, and all of it could just be a complete lie. There are seriously multiple scenarios where this could not be the case. Seeing that we learned about what the Nethersim did, this is an outside source, so more than likely it could be correct, but maybe Sargeras was the most fanatical of the Titans, and he wanted to order and make things so perfect that he started fixing every single imperfection with just sheer hellfire. Or maybe he realized that the Titan mission is just completely wrong and that they're just as tyrannical as the Void Lords, and he decided that everything just needs to be completely purged so that it could start anew. This one might even be the closest to the known lore. Keep in mind, the story is that Sargeras was essentially driven insane by visions, and that there was a big disagreement with the Pantheon that ultimately led to a huge battle where he destroyed them as he was empowered by Fel. However, what if the actual story is that both of them were wrong, and it wasn't the fact that Sargeras went crazy, it's just that he started doing his own thing in a Titan way and they didn't agree with him, so they just proclaimed him as insane. Obviously, the minions of the Titans are not going to write that they have been in the wrong as well. Now, of course, let's be a bit objective here. I'm not saying this is exactly equal. On one hand, the Titans may be tyrannical, they may convert life and force them to do their bidding, and on the other, Sargeras literally created a demonic army and started splitting and severing planets in half and just destroying everything there is to existence. However, this is a really interesting thing we can examine, is that the Titans may actually be just as bad, although maybe not as extreme, and this is a really interesting point to think about. Remember how these guys literally built various bits of machinery all over the world that was observed by Algalon? There was literally a fail-safe mechanism that could completely wipe out the entire planet. All of this could be triggered if the Black Empire would be established again, if the old gods freed themselves. Seeing that they wrote about a history, this to me is literally like, if we can't have this planet, no one else is going to have it. Think about it logically. How is this any different than to what Sargeras is actually doing? Sargeras is only brute forcing it, like splitting the planets immediately and not even giving Order a chance, as, you know, he may be some sort of a doomer, and he just destroyed the planet as soon as there was any corruption. The rest of the Titan Pantheon was a lot more sophisticated, and on the other hand decided to create a delicate mechanism that would accomplish the exact same goal if the Void took over. In this process, they would wipe out the World Soul, all native life, and even all their minions and us that they consider as minions. So this is a really interesting thing to think about now with the new lore. Obviously in Dragonflight we will explore this storyline more, and Blizzard is obviously setting something up here. However, we may be getting a completely new storyline on Sargeras in much the same manner as the information that we had just received. We may not learn that he was a good guy, but we may start learning the true motives and the fact that they might have deleted the history of the Burning Legion in a similar manner to how they deleted the history of the Black Empire. With that jailer's cliffhanger with what is to come, obviously some serious cosmological changes will be happening with the introduction of the first ones. Additionally, Sargeras is actually still around, so there is totally the possibility that he could have some sort of a role in the future, especially if we learn his true motives and the true nature of the Titans. Thank you for watching. Check out the brand new Dwarf race we discovered in Dragonflight by clicking on the screen, and check out Odin's Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.